Get Gutsy, episode number 195 with Christine Gutierrez, Wild Woman Magic.
Welcome to Get Gutsy. I'm your host, Jenny Fennig, and I am so excited to be on this journey with you. A cutting-edge show blending business and spirituality, Get Gutsy serves up a potent blend of stories, lessons, and tips to help you make a massive impact in the world through your soul's work and your inspired life. No more going it alone, no more excuses. The world needs more brave women saying yes to leadership. Are you with me? Good. Let's get gutsy now.
Hey everyone, Jenny here. Another episode for you. Here we go. OMG, we're coming up on 200 episodes, which is blowing my mind and humbling me to where we've been and what we've covered on this show. I am going to be taking a juicy sabbatical this summer from the show. Kind of feel into where it's meant to go next. I'm not sure. And sometimes the only way to get sure is to take that space. So make sure you're plugged in for the next few episodes. We have some extraordinary ones. I've got an amazing guest for you today. And then heads up next week, I have my original mentor, the woman who kind of got me into this whole industry. Her name is Allie Brown. So she's going to be on the show next week. And wow, what a conversation you are going to get a seat at the table at. All right, so make sure you come back for that one. Today I've got somebody awesome. Her name is Christine Gutierrez. And we had been talking, earlier this year and then several years back initially met. You're going to hear our story when you tune in. And we were recently featured on a friend's summit earlier this year. And we just started talking and realized, what, let's do something together. Let's just kind of play. Let's see where this goes. And so that's where Wild Woman Magic was born. And this conversation, I didn't even know it was going to be a podcast episode, honestly. We just said, hey, let's do a live stream because we're doing a one-day retreat in New York City on June 1st. I want to give you an invitation to come. And we said, let's get on the live stream. And then as we did, I realized, wait a second, this needs to be an entire podcast episode. I want people to hear what we have to say. Christine has so much wisdom, and we are having this conversation soon after, something pretty big happened in our industry with a woman I've learned a lot from and has been somebody who I have gotten on calls with, and she's been an expert for one of my programs, a guest expert, and her name is Danielle Laporte. And so if you don't know kind of the situation there, you can go and do some research. You'll find out kind of what happened, but it really has sparked a conversation that has been going on for a long time, but a deeper conversation for the leaders in our field, in the coaching field, in the healing space, to discuss what is our responsibility, as leaders. How do we, handle when we make a mistake or when things aren't well received with our work in a particular way or with certain people. And it is worth talking about. It's worth exploring. It's something that as leaders, it's this constant humbling effect where you realize you need to open your eyes wider and really look to see your own blind spots and, get clear on how you're meant to serve, who you're meant to serve, what you're meant to, teach on, talk about, all the things. So that's just kind of an overview of the energy that's going into this particular episode. And let me just give you more of a sense of, what Wild Woman Magic is all about, like why Christine and I are collaborating, and then you can listen to this conversation. It's juicy and real and raw. All right, so here's the deal. It's easy to get lost in life. It's easy to follow the crowd. It's so easy to get trapped in a life you thought you wanted, only to realize after you get it that this ain't it. It's even easier to silence your voice and think that your needs don't truly matter. In our quest to prove ourselves, it's easy to push against our bodies, our intuition, our values, our natural rhythms. This is not a sustainable approach to life, love, health, relationships, or your career. As women, we are designed to flow with the moon, but so many women have forgotten. We push, 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 and try to operate in a structure that robs us of our power. We burn out, we get sick, we disconnect from our body and our truth and the work that is ours to create and contribute. The old ways of working, which are not listening to your body, pushing, forcing, or trying to control outcomes, do not work anymore. Let's be honest, they never really did. Okay, hold on, Kate. My daughter is right here. Just give me a moment. You want a microphone. I'll get you one in a second, okay? She wants a microphone. This is good. She wants a microphone. It's my daughter. All right, so are you on social media a lot, yet still feel lonely? Yeah. It's noisier than ever. The advice you receive from so many sources contradicts itself. You're more confused than ever. Some days your fear consumes you and you simply want to crawl under your blanket and hide. Do you feel this too? There is a better way. That's what Christine and I are talking about today. We go into what it means to unleash your wild woman magic and how you can join us at our one-day retreat on June 1st in New York City, where we're going to dive more deeply together. You can find out more and get your ticket at jennyfennig.com/magic. That's jennyfennig.com/magic. And where we go today in this conversation is, what psychology really is. And we're talking about that because Christine is a psychotherapist. She's a love addiction expert, a life coach, and an expert in trauma, abuse, and self-esteem. Her mission is to empower as many people as possible to heal their pain and own their worth. And so, she's such an ideal person for me to collaborate with on this Wild Woman Magic retreat. And so we talk about the areas of her expertise and, what I've seen in my work and what I personally have experienced in, the areas that I've given lots of energy and attention to in terms of healing. We talk about that healing is messy and what does your body really need at this time? And that right now in this industry, a veil is being lifted and layers are being peeled away. We also talk about being mindful of your biases and how to go deeper into your leadership. So I hope you enjoy this episode. It was hard for me to kind of put some of my own thoughts out there because honestly, as a white woman, I am not a woman of color. And so Christina, she's a Latina. And I want to ensure that I am listening more than I'm talking and really working to learn what I don't know and how to be a stronger leader, how to evolve in, how I support women. And I hope that comes across in the conversation today. So thanks so much for tuning in. Again, if you want to join us in New York, get your spot, jennyfennig.com/magic. Spread the word to your awesome women in your life and keep being willing to do the work. That's what this is all about. Enjoy. All right, I'm going to get this baby recorded on my computer too, because we're going to be doing some really good stuff. And so we want to welcome you to this conversation on Wild Woman Magic. Are you ready to unleash yours? Christine, you and I go way back. When did we first meet? Do you remember when we first met? Because I think I do.
Did we meet in Chris Carr's thing?
Or no. It was a different one, even before then. Okay, well, this is my recollection. You may have your own, and I don't know who's right. But the first time I remember spending time with you was at Megan Watterson's reveal retreat at Kripalu when I was super pregnant with my daughter, Kate, which was in 2014, like January of 2014.
I do remember that. And then I'm wondering, and then we had another, I know that we met at another time. I was doing something with Terry, my mentor, and I think we were somewhere else. But in any case, we were in that world and we met through that. And you were very proud. I do remember you were growing up.
Totally. So we are doing this live stream. It's on my Facebook page. Christine has an amazing business. She has phenomenal work that she does out in the world. Christine, tell everybody more just, about what you're passionate about and how you show up in the world. And then we'll let everybody know why we're doing this together and why we're collaborating.
Yeah. So as Jenny said, my name is Christine Gutierrez, and I have been working as a therapist and and combining ancient wisdom with modern therapy. And really, the role that I identify most with is as a healer. And really, the work that I do is a lot of shadow work, a lot of trauma work. I work with people that, mostly women of color, but all women. At one point, I worked as a family therapist where I worked with the whole family unit, and that was child abuse and child prevention. And so really my expertise and my joy and my passion is in helping people to work through trauma and also work through love addiction. So those are two things that I work with. And for me, they usually go very hand in hand: addictions and trauma, early childhood trauma, trauma as an adult. And so really, that shadow work, right? Like diving deep into your childhood experience, what experiences that you go through that fragmented your sense of self-esteem and made you inevitably not feel worthy and repeat these patterns. And so I always tell people that I teach not only from a scholarly, got my master's and all that jazz, because that wasn't only it, but it was through my own life cred, right? Growing up, born and raised in Bushwick, and really just, seeing it like in my life, in my own life, and then seeing it in the next door neighbor's life, and just seeing, really being exposed to all that violence and that pain and the drug dealers and all of that was just so normal. But something in our bodies as children knows that doesn't feel right, and that's not normal, and yet we forget. And so reconnecting to that space within us of how can I integrate this in a healthy, grounded way,
right?
And so that's really the majority of the work I do. I always tell people what I help people to do is to come back home to themselves in an integrated and embodied way, so that they're not spiritually bypassing their wounds, but then honoring them and not drowning in them either, so that they can heal in a way that actually propels them forward.
Yes. How did you know, like, because you and I grew up very differently, like Bushwick, is that Queens or Brooklyn? Where's Queens?
And I'm actually here now in Brooklyn.
Oh, Brooklyn. Okay. I was like, I knew it was one of the, I was the Manhattanite for like 11 years, but by way of the South, by Florida and Georgia. So I like never thought I would be in New York. It was like not even
Florida.
Yeah, Florida. And I was born in St. Petersburg, which is close to Tampa. We moved when I was a baby, moved to Atlanta for my father's job. My parents divorced when I was very young. My mother remarried. My mother, sister, and I moved from Georgia back to Florida, but near Daytona Beach. Okay. And so I lived down there, and New York was not even on the radar. I was like, why would one live in New York? And then in college, I studied public relations. And, this is the story of mentorship. I had some friends who were a year older, and they went away to New York City for internships after their junior year in college. And then they came back for their senior year. At that point, I'm just starting my junior. They're like, oh my God, Jenny, you have to go to New York. It will change your life. You have to. It's going to be the best experience. And I trusted them. I'm like, well, okay, if they did it and they said it was awesome, maybe I should do that too. And so that was my first taste of New York, was when I got an internship after my junior year at the University of Florida, hating it for the first month because I was in a state of culture shock. I'm like, this place is crazy. I don't know. I just never seen anything like it. It was, so out of my comfort zone. And then after a month of feeling like, whoa, I realized, wait, I love it here. This is fantastic. Anything goes. Nobody cares if you walk around with like anything you could wear. Like, it would just be cool. And that was such a breath of fresh air coming from a really small town where everybody knew your business, and people said things that you did that you're like, I wasn't even at that party. Like, what? I didn't do that. So New York was just such a, a wonderful change for me. And, so it's just interesting, like, your upbringing, did you, like, when you decided like, hey, wait, that's not right. Like, did you always know you wanted to be a healer, a helper? I think you said you kind of learned a lot of this from your grandparents or from your mom. Like, how did you learn the art of being a healer and understanding that you can take control of a lot of things in your life?
For me, and I always tell people that I believe that to be a true healer, and a true medicine woman or healer, whatever word you want to use, that there's a soul call, you know, that you feel it in your soul. Oftentimes from a very early age, you feel this like push or this drive to help people, to stand for humanity. I remember just like walking down the streets in Brooklyn with my mom. And, you know, I was raised traditionally, I'm Puerto Rican. I was raised Catholic. And I went to Catholic school my whole life, even went to Jesuit college. I went to Fordham, you know, for my undergrad. And I remember walking down the streets and begging my mom to let me speak to homeless people so that I can ask them their story, you know, already the early signs of a therapist, right? And crying and being sad. And then the spiritual piece, having a little altar, like literally had an altar with my confirmation book and the Bible. And, you know, I would go to the 99-cent store with my grandmother and get angels and all these things and my rosary. And I had an altar, and I would open my Bible like an oracle deck and ask it questions and open it to the Bible. And, you know, my favorite was Psalms. And, you know, so it was that early kind of like soul call. And I followed that. And then I believe that, you know, we're all placed with a purpose inside of us. And some of them may seem like more, you know, what's the word, you know, kind of like something like, oh, you're a healer in the traditional sense. So that's like the calling. But, you know, to be a mother and to be at home with your children is a calling. To be a farmer is a calling. To do anything is a calling. But I think that for me, my calling was to be a healer, and listening to those cues throughout life, and listening to them and pursuing them, and then having my own experiences with trauma kind of broke me open and gave me that life initiation of I can walk people through the fires because I've gone through it. And so I think I feel that it was always in me from since the earliest times I was a child. I just didn't know the word.
Right.
It was a word. So I said, I'll be a doctor of some kind, or I'll be some kind of, you know, I didn't know. But then once I knew that there was a such thing as a therapist, I was like, oh, this is amazing. I could be, and then I discovered that the word psychology actually means the study of the soul.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's not of the mind, it's of the soul.
Oh my gosh.
And so we forget that. And, you know, modern psychology, again, very patriarchal, you know, and that's something that we're going to talk about in our course, in our half-day retreat, rather. You know, like very patriarchal, you know, and cultures that have been ripped away, indigenous tribes, like all these things that were stripped from our kind of understanding of these things, right? And so it's amazing to be able to remember it. And, you know, and in psychology, you guide people through their psyche, through their soul, to discover the fragile pieces of themselves and what pains they've gone through, and untangling the webs. And in doing that, they discover their strength, they discover their vulnerabilities, they discover their pain, they discover the magic that lives beyond that. And, you know, I always say healing is very messy, but it's worth it. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, healing is very messy. It is very messy. And I didn't realize that psychology is the study of the soul. Well, no wonder I appreciate it so much. I appreciate therapy so much. It was funny when I was drawn to the corporate space. Like, I didn't ever consider being a therapist when I was younger, like in my, high school years, when you're trying to figure out what am I going to study in school. My first idea was, once I got into college, I was like, all right, I got to kind of make a decision. I was going to be a high school English teacher. So I was always been a very good communicator. That's my thing. I know how to write, I know how to speak, and I know how to be persuasive. I know how to make a point. And I've always been into journalism. I was on my yearbook staff all 4 years in high school, and I was editor my senior year. I was like, yes, I like to tell stories. I like to
tell those little pieces that were already in us.
Yeah, I just love. I think it's so fantastic. And then I realized, wait, I don't need a teaching thing like that. I don't want to go to the same classroom every day and have to repeat the same topics. If you have to teach the same class to a few different classes, and I think I'll get bored. And I kind of knew I need more than that. And so I changed course and went into public relations, which I did that hardcore in New York for several years. Then I
my soul, talk about soul, my soul was dying. I'm like, I can't keep doing this. Like, this just is not enough. And then I completely changed careers. I started producing business conferences. I put on conferences in the marketing space, the strategy space, the customer management space, like the package design and product design space. And that was very exciting. I learned how to be an entrepreneur. I was around a lot of big thinkers, interesting, just interesting concepts. And I started getting a cut of the profits of my events, which was mind blowing because I'm like, oh, wait, this is how you make money. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then while I was in that, though, it was in that job that I started working with a therapist in New York who changed my life. And I realized in order for me to have the kind of life that I want and get married to my husband and like not be afraid of men, because I was like afraid. And I'm like, I don't think I can trust men. I just think they're pretty much untrustworthy. And so then I dated all men who were untrustworthy to like validate that point. And so when I met my husband, I'm like, all right, I got to clear some stuff out because I
remember you telling me something like this.
Yes. I keep really sabotaging relationships. I am using alcohol, not in a good way. And yeah. And so my therapist at that time, I'll always be grateful to him, Dr. Rich. And while I was going through that process, I'm like, I would say to him, if I could do it all over, Dr. Rich, I would be a therapist. I should be the one sitting here, and then as luck would have it, eventually quit that job, studied to become a yoga teacher, which just cracked me open in all the right ways, discovered the field of coaching, which I am now, and like you and I, connect over that too. That allowed me to use my gifts, which is to listen. I can help people come up with plans, brainstorm. I have, the stories and the messages, and I don't get afraid of people's shit. And so that allowed me to realize I didn't need to be a therapist. That actually wasn't the best path for me. I appreciate therapists, and I'm so grateful for them, and they've changed my life. But coaching was a better fit for me. And so that's, how I've set out on this path. And that's really how you and I have connected, obviously through the work way back when. And then you and I were both on the same summit earlier this year. And that's when we were like, wait, hey, where have you been? And we started chatting. So why don't you share, what was that summit that you and I were both on? Because obviously we have a unique story around alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and it's so great that you remember to bring that up because I completely forgot about that piece of it. And that's massive. We were on our friend's summit, and it was about redefining sobriety. And we both shared our stories. And it's something that I don't very often get asked to speak on. It's something rather new in my life. And it was about my journey of sobriety and what that looked like, and how it wasn't the typical form of what I thought alcoholism looked like, even clinically, knowing what it says in a book.
Yes.
To understand what it means in a real life contextual way was very different. And so for me, it was, that journey. And then we noticed that we actually were on the same conversation of alcoholism. So, for me, realizing that I was I knew that I was a codependent. I knew that I was a love addict. I knew that I had all these, isms, as they say in the rooms. And I just didn't know that alcohol was a problem until I started getting this sneaky feeling that was telling me, you like, what do you do? Like, why did that happen? Why did end up, hooking up with that guy or doing that thing that you would have never done had you not been drinking?
Right.
And like feeling out of alignment, talk about out of alignment with my spirit, with my magic, with my source, with my femininity. I felt completely disconnected. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? And I kept on going back to the same toxic guys, and I would do good and then I would relapse. And I was like, wait a minute. I talked about the relapse of the love addiction, but what was making me relapse? It wasn't just love addiction. Very often in my journey, I was drinking.
Yeah.
I was getting drunk and calling or texting somebody that I shouldn't have had no business texting. And then was all of a sudden in the same fucked up dynamic. And I was wrapped up in this space where I didn't belong, but yet my feet were taking me to. And I had some scary situations that happened to me that I won't go into here, that I will share, when we meet up in person for
Mm-hmm.
It was scary. It was
Right.
really scary. And
Mm-hmm.
and I got little signs, and I was like, and my journey, took me to admitting, you know what? I think I am an alcoholic. It just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the kind that I thought it was. And
Right.
I've been sober since, thank God, but it's been a gift. So,
Yes. When
yes,
did you let it go? When did you let alcohol go?
the last I can't remember the exact date of the first, like, this last drink, but I consider my sober date October 8th 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think it was a month before that was my last drink, where I was just like madness, and I was like,
Right. Yes.
and for anyone that's listening that can resonate, one
Mm-hmm.
of the big signs for me was I just couldn't stop when I started, but once I
Mm.
stopped, I would go for a while without it. So
Yes.
I was an alcoholic. I was more.
Right.
What about
Right.
you?
Yes, yes. Oh my God. Thank you for sharing your story. And like when I realized, like, wait a second, this doesn't need to be in my life anymore. This isn't enhancing my life. This is taking away from it, was May of 2015. So a little more than a year prior to you. I had my first drink the first weekend of my freshman year of high school. I went to my first high school party, and it was a party in the woods in Florida. And there was a keg of beer there, and I was like, that's what I need to do is have a sip. And it was disgusting. It was like crappy beer. Uh, and that's when I had like that first buzz where you're like, ooh. And it was that feeling, because what I've learned since having I had drank for so many years, but also looked very perfect on the outside. I had this like double life going on, and I did that really well. Was that the drinking allowed me to feel like more magical in those situations. I was like, that's how I'm fit in. That's how I'm funny. People like me when I'm light like that, when I'm just like bubbly. And the only way I can be like that is if I'm drinking, because the drinking took the edge off. Because I would be nervous in situations like that, especially when you're like the freshman and you're around like these older people. I felt I needed the alcohol to relax me. And so, and then I would be, just kind of more like happy-go-lucky. And I felt like, well, that's how people like Jenny. And so I need to keep doing that so that I give them what they want. And that, like you, I mean, I got myself into some situations that were dangerous, that I am lucky to be here. I did some stupid things, and by the grace of God, I'm still here. Like I'm not done yet. Like the mission is not complete, but many years of just stupid stuff. And I had never thought I was an alcoholic. It was just kind of the deal. You went out and got shit-faced when you went to parties and stuff, and like that was that. But as I moved into my New York City experience, and I'd work at these big companies, and it was very much a work hard, play hard environment. Like the corporate space was like, that's what you did. But I just, after a while, Christine, the hangovers, I could not do those anymore. And I didn't know what my limit was. It's like one day you could have this many and be fine, but then the other time you do it and it wasn't so good. And it was, like I said, May of 2015, when it all just clicked in. Like, you know what? And I hadn't been drinking a lot since I met my husband, because he was older than me, and thank God for him. He was just like, that was not part of our relationship. It was the first ever relationship I had where some kind of alcohol or substance wasn't part of it. And it blew my mind that like you could have that. And so once I became a mom, I used to have like a glass of wine here and there. But as I've gotten deeper into my work and really connected into the spiritual path that I'm on, that I have lives to touch, I have contributions to make, and I've only just scratched the surface with that. And I'm excited to continue. I'm excited to go deeper with the people who feel called to work with me. I want to be the kind of mom to my kids who is like present, who's not governed by something outside myself like that. And so it just became clear. And once I said yes to it, it was like a whole world opened up. And it's funny, I don't know about you, Christine, but I've since attracted many women to do work with me. They don't always realize right away, because I'm not like talking about this all the time, but then it comes out, they're like, oh my gosh. And so, I'm happy for anyone tuning in that they know if it's something that you've been thinking about, or you just been struggling about, and you're kind of like, well, everybody drinks and I have to do that, but you just don't feel good doing it anymore, just know that you don't have to. And there's other ways to move forward. And you can do things that allow you to feel really good and not feel like shit.
It's so true. And it's so amazing because, hearing people's journeys it's important. This is May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, and just talking about all these things. And, and in order, you go to, we're hosting our workshop, which we're going to tell you more about, Wild Woman Magic. And a lot of times we'll do these events and you want this magic and you want this experiences, but you're not willing to look at the raw areas in your life that need work, that need the healing, that need the real medicine, that need the help. You're not willing to, or you're in denial, which I get because I was in, but sometimes it takes hearing someone else say it to get a little tickle in your gut that says, maybe I do have a problem. Maybe this doesn't work for me. And like you said, you don't have to know anything other than maybe I just don't feel good. And it's like, I remember saying to myself, it was like a throwing a dice. I didn't know what it was going to be like. Sometimes I was fine. And then most of the times I could say, looking back in retrospect, I wasn't. And I felt a desire to get fucked up.
Totally. That's the reason why you were doing it.
Yeah. I wanted, like, I didn't want to just, and even to this day, one of my grounding key things that I tell myself is, I could start drinking again. And if I wanted to, it would be really bad for me because I don't enjoy just having one drink. I'm not a one drink kind of girl. I cannot ever picture myself. It's just not in my blood. It's not in my nature. Take a sip of wine and be like, oh, well, I had a fantastic night. I'm going to go to bed.
Yeah.
Maybe once, maybe twice, but inevitably I wouldn't. And there's something that makes me feel allergic to it. But there was layers that I feel we're both saying that we discovered in this this shedding process.
That's right. That's what you find. It's because, I think whether it's like alcohol or other things, like they're crutches, they're numbing techniques. So for me, it was a numb out technique. So I didn't have to feel things. I had a lot of trauma from my childhood. And again, credit to the fabulous therapists, especially the modality of EMDR, for helping me move through that. But the alcohol was like a great number. I was like, I don't have to feel anything. And then for me, I moved into other stuff in college and my early 20s. I was super into ecstasy for a while. Like I was trying to feel, I was like numbing the pain, but trying to just synthetically create happy feelings.
Yeah.
And then I realized, wait, there's actually natural ways to do that. And I don't have to have any hangover. I don't have to put that externally on these substances. For me, it was yoga. Yoga saved my life. It changed my life. That's so much of the root of what I do now in my work. Yes, I am a coach, but I'm pretty much teaching yoga because yoga is mastery over the mind. That's really the purpose of yoga, is to help you achieve mastery over your mind, is to realize that like these thoughts, they will take you to the worst places. They can take you to the best places. And so you can decide how you're going to move through the world. And there's different ways that you can work with your energy so that you set yourself up for success and for a fantastic day versus like you just feel like crap all the time. And so, yeah, there's just so much that you have to look at. And when, like you said, Christine, it's that willingness to like look, and it can be super painful at first. They say, especially if like for those who do go the sobriety route, that first year especially, it's painful because it's like eyes wide freaking open. You see everything. You're like, ouch, no wonder why people drink, because there's some rough stuff. But it's just important to see, and we're going to really look at that. Christine and I are co-hosting this awesome one-day retreat in New York City on June 1st called Wild Woman Magic. We want to invite you there. These are the kinds of conversations we want to have, because her and I are committed to allowing you to feel amazing in your body. Like this just shouldn't be like a random thing that happens now and again. It can be an all the time thing for you, where regardless of what's happening in the world, and there's a lot of hard stuff that's happening just globally and then within the industry that we're in, Christine.
In a second.
Yes. there's always going to be stuff that's happening. There's never just like this perfect, there's never an issue. Like there's just stuff, there's stuff happening. But there are tools that you have within you right now, and that Christine and I want to share with you. You come and join us in June at our retreat that can help you move through the highs and the lows and not burn out, deplete yourself, and basically make you go, live in a corner for the rest of your life because you just can't deal anymore. Okay. And so Christine, let's just talk about that. Some of the stuff that's going on right now that you and I have been having some private conversations on. You've been having larger conversations within, all the people you're connected to. Like, what's going on, and how do you navigate some of the hard stuff that just is part of life?
Yeah, I mean, right now, for those of you that are watching, we're once people share this or watch it, one of the things that has recently been happening has been this conversation about the lack of diversity, which I brought up many times. As you can see by our video, Jenny is white. I am light skinned, but I'm Puerto Rican, right? And we're and it's important that we talk about culture. And I think that when we talk about healing, we often and especially I think in the white world have seen it as we're just dealing with our emotions, we're just dealing with our insides, we're not dealing with the historical, political, and generational trauma that comes from, let's say, racism and what that looks like. And so, healing happens at many different levels. And right now we're in an age where the veil is being lifted, the Maya, the illusion is being lifted, and we're seeing things. We have a president that's Trump, and these for better or worse, it is what it is right now. And it's revealing things that are coming to the surface that can't be ignored, that even me as a woman of color, as a Latina woman, that is what I identify with, New Yorican, born and raised in New York, right? Because that's part of my cultural identity. I then moved to Puerto Rico for a few years and go back all the time. But there's this massive healing that's happening, and it's an invitation for us to also uncover the magic that lives within that. My opinion is that, I've had, I'm not going to go fully into that conversation right now, but we're going to dive more into that. We want the real magic. We want the authentic magic that lives underneath the wound of whatever wound you are coming with. And that whether you are a Black, Spanish, Indian, Asian, white, that you come sharing your authentic rawness, and you need to have the safety to do that. Unfortunately, in the world that we are in, we would be naive to say that it has been that way or it has been fair to be that way. I pass as a light-skinned white woman. I have skinny privilege. I have pretty privilege, even though I don't look that cute right now. But
you do.
But like, seriously, these are all the privileges. We have American privilege. If we talk to someone from another country, they'll tell you, well, you guys in America are so privileged. So there's many layers that we're unpacking, that I'm unpacking, that a lot of white women in our industry that I have respected their work have made some choices that weren't the best for their brand, but more importantly wasn't the best for common sense. To a woman of color is not often common sense for a white woman, because they don't have the experience of looking to see the same things that we're just, when I went on Danielle Laporte's thing, I just went to the website, and I have, my mentors are friends with her, and like, it's not like a slight on her character. Like, I personally don't think she's racist. I think that he did a classic white woman thing, which was that she picked images that made no sense and that were offensive. But she's an artist in her mind. She was like, I'm just making this up. I don't know for sure. But, she's creative. She was picking an image that she probably thought was pretty. She is not what she's not overtly a racist, but we all have stereotypes and stigmas biases that we all have, even women of color, even Latina women, light skin, dark skin, that we need to unpack right now. And so part of the medicine that I think that we're all unearthing, and one of the reasons why I love, Jenny and there's another one, Sarah Jenks, like there's people that you just own it. Like, yes, I'm white, like, you know, and like, I'm Latina. It's just a fact. It's not a bad or a good thing. It just is what it is.
Right.
And when you just say, you know, like, I don't know what to do, right? So one of the questions that people ask right now is, you know, what can we do? You know, is just listen and learn and be curious, and also be willing to say, I don't know. When I don't know something, I tell people, I don't know. I don't know.
Yes.
When a client comes to me, and even I'm not a mother yet, although I mother many people, I'm not a mother yet. So I will not pretend to have the experience as being a physical mother to a child. I'm a dog, I'm the mother of people, I've nanny, I have very motherly things, but I haven't had that experience day in and day out to have to. So I can't, and I won't, you know, tell a mother that comes to me as a client. I always say, well, I have to start with this. I personally am not a mother yet. So while I can empathize, I can't truly in my bones understand you until I go through that experience, or until I have a similar enough experience, you know, a mother, you know, raising my child literally as my own son, where you have to do that every day. So I think, you know, right now with white women and women of privilege that maybe don't, because there's also, you know, Latina women that are so disconnected and whitewashed that they don't see it. And they're like, no, it's fine. Like, you know, they're just, those are those people. You know, there's racism even within your own culture. So it is about things, you know, that, you know, there's no turning back now with all these things happening. People they have to get woke or they will not survive. So, you know, my responsibility is that as a woman of color who has had a lot of deep pain in these things, is to bring that and to hone in that and honor that and tend to it, just like I've done to all my other trauma. And for the white women that, you know, have their experiences, the ones that are awakened and that are and not awakened that they spiritually bypass, but awakened that they feel the rawness of people's experience. And however uncomfortable it may be, however it comes out, the anger, the cursing, whatever it be, that we hold space for it. And that we find the magic that this is a big moment. Like I see this and I'm like, thank fucking God. I was talking about it because it was always there. And now white women have the ability to even, you know, say things and be like, you know what, I'm actually scared to say this because I don't know the right word. That's fine. Why can't, you know, someone be scared to say something because they don't have the right word? It's not, that's authentic. That's raw.
And I think it's important that we admit that we are afraid, because this was something that we were talking about. I led a retreat. It feels like 8 million years ago, but it was really just this past weekend. And, you know, I had my people here and I was ready to discuss what had just happened with this Danielle Laporte situation. Because Danielle she was like a guest expert for this program that I was doing the retreat for. So I'm like, they must all have seen it all. And I need to be informed and do my research and be ready to discuss. And like, you know, and nobody there knew what was happening. And I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So that was an interesting discovery too, that like not everybody knows.
They're mostly white though. You know, the thing is that, you know,
maybe that was part of it. Good point, Christine.
You know, but the thing is that like the reason why even it was elevated and brought to that was because you also have surrounded yourself. You know, God works in mysterious ways. We decided to do this together. I work with people that I feel called to in my spirit. It doesn't matter who they are. You know, just because I speak clearly and authentically on my experience as a woman of color and what I've gone through and my experiences doesn't mean that I stop working with who I feel
right.
That's important for people to know too, that you know, you're safe to still be you. You know, I'm complex.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
But anyway, going back to your point that they maybe didn't notice, right? Because algorithms are weird on Facebook now. You can't see it unless you're constantly looking. So because you were already in my sphere and other people's sphere and very connected to her, she pops up more on your algorithm. And then women of color, we were speaking up so loudly about our
that was what was happening. Got it. That's okay. Yes. That's how the algorithm works. Because I had no idea how I initially got wind of what was going on. But once I did, I felt like it was my responsibility to track what was going on and to feel it. I was feeling I was feeling feelings, I was like feeling it. And it was just like I felt it was super uncomfortable, like the entire week, which I don't want that to be like my white privilege talking. I was just super uncomfortable for a week, but maybe that's what a lot of people feel all the time, like super uncomfortable. But it was just, oh my gosh. Also from like a brand strategy perspective, remember that's my background, is like, how will this be handled? Because in the public relations world that I was trained in, that's a crisis. And so that's a crisis management situation on their hands. And so I was very intrigued by how will this be handled? And, eventually we got someplace and we had this, powerful conversation over the weekend. But my concern was for a lot of my community who is already afraid to like be visible and vulnerable just because they're afraid of just being, a lot of them being seen, being seen. My concern was, well, now some of them are going to be even more afraid to be seen because they feel they're going to make a mistake. Yeah. And, we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. Just like bank on it.
And I think that that's a really important key point. Just for everyone watching, my community, most of the people are women of color. Your community is mostly white women. That's because what we give off, our energy, what we lead with. And B, that's okay. It's totally okay for that to be a thing. I think that people get confused a lot with this conversation. There's nothing wrong with that. You attract your tribe and who you are. That's not racist, but what I think is that the medicine in this is that it's, for me, and I think for most women of color, when they think about this conversation, and then having mentors and people in my life that are white women that I love as a person, doesn't mean that I understand how they feel as a white woman experience, nor is it my responsibility to dive into that right now because of the lack of imbalance that I've been, and I can say for a lot of women of color, they've been selling their souls over to assimilate and be so like it that it feels inappropriate to, tend to someone else right now. Do I think that means that the feelings of white women don't matter? No, I don't think that, I don't think that, that you could say something like that, especially when I'm speaking about one person, like when it's you or like Terry, who's my mentor, like I care how she feels because I love her. Right. But as a whole, as a whole, because that's what I'm speaking about, is that, yes, white women will be scared. And what the unfortunate thing is, and my goal is, I don't want, my wish would be, right, that white women are not fearful for the wrong reasons. So meaning that what happens is, and what the feedback that I'm getting from the white women in my life are, now we're scared. We're going to hire someone, a woman of color, pay them $10,000 or whatever, because we have to, because we're going to send them all our shit and make sure we're not racist. So now we've checked that off the box because I don't want to be seen, but they're not doing it from their soul, from their heart, having a real conversation with somebody that they can find. They can go on their Facebook Live. I invite Danielle and anyone to be okay knowing that you can make a mistake. Right. Now, share like all of the things, because true authenticity, and this is the hard part, right, is that you're gonna get burned sometimes. You're gonna get burned. And in a conversation as deep and as historical and as ancient as this is like patriarchy. Yeah. Like talk about burn, girl. I can go back a few I was like, I was burned at the stake because I'm witchy. I like honor the earth, and I believe in the power that we have as women. And so I hear you, and I love everything that you're saying, and I'm totally in alignment. And the one thing I really hope that we can do as women is that we stay together. My deepest truth is that it's not the men who are going to bring us down. We talk about patriarchy. It will be women. It's like the women, the infighting that will occur. And then don't be scared. Different cultures deal with things differently. Black and Latina women, we're more fiery. We have more passion. Not always, but a lot of the time. Our culture is very okay with overt forms of aggression, and we're not scared by it. I'm not scared when a woman writes something like, you know, tell the bitch to calm down. It's not that big of a deal for me personally. It doesn't disrupt my nervous system.
Got it.
For a white woman. And so there's these phrases that come up, but understand, right? A white woman's culture, she's the opposite. She's taught to suppress every single feeling of anger.
Yes.
To be angry is to be bad. You know, so do you think that those two people processing feelings are going to really get each other? No. Which is why, you know, white women that are
fascinating.
White women that are woke need to help other white women just get it and then translate it in a way that makes it feel safe for them.
Got it.
And women of color that, you know, I could still do my workshop and, you know, maybe do a corporate thing where I give a diversity thing. They're paying me. I'm coming in, I'm coming out. But to tend to every person, like, you know, the woman that I called out on my Facebook, I got on the phone with her for an hour. We spoke. You know, it's not like, you know, it's not like we left it there. We actually had a conversation. But at the end of the day, it was still hard for her. It was so hard for her to, you know, she tried. She wanted to. I could feel it. But it was a waste of my energy. It really was. And it's not to her fault. I mean, it's her fault, but it isn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's just, everyone's
just like
trying
the conditioning. It's just like how she was brought up. You just like, it's just like how we were made. Yeah.
And so, you know, and then the last piece I will say on this is that if you want real magic and you want real medicine, you have to peel the layers on all the things, you know? Yeah. So, you know, culture is being brought up for all of us to heal for a reason. Donald Trump is in president.
For a reason.
So, you know, let's not, like, my wish, because a lot of the women that are your followers are white women, is to not be scared because you're going to do something bad and like be in that fear. It would be to be scared to not uncover the parts of yourself or be willing to uncover the parts of yourself that might be, you know, racist. Being racist doesn't mean, you know, you can't attract white women. Being racist doesn't mean you need to stick a black person or a Spanish person on your marketing just because you want to be diverse. Doesn't mean that. It means being mindful of your biases. I put a checklist on my Facebook. And for me, it means giving back the medicine to my people so that they can remember their thing. And you know, for the women that they think that they are unseen, right? I would challenge them to see, you know, most of them are not unseen in the ways that Black and Latina women or indigenous women are unseen. And yet still in their experience, they feel unseen, right? Because, you know, that's the word that they're going to use, right? They're not speaking their truth. Yeah. That has nothing to do with it. In fact, it's an invitation to explore those parts to make you a stronger, more powerful, authentic leader. Yeah. That speaks on these things. You know, Gabby's book, you know, I've supported her stuff. I've read her stuff and, you know, all the things, but they're not speaking on these things. You are, you know, that says something about, you know, you even giving the space to say, hey, let's mention this. This is uncomfortable. My girls are scared, but even saying that. And there's medicine here for everyone. Yes. You know, don't think that because now, you know, I spoke about that, I don't love white women or I don't have to defend myself. It's just people are allowed to have their experiences. And in this case, it's been centuries of so much pain. You go to Hay House, you go see all the things. There's not one, you know, there's just nothing. It's all white, older, you know. So now we're realizing, you know, and you know, they'll probably want me to do a book deal with them. You know what I mean? But like they're gonna have to beg me with a lot of money. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the thing is that it's about peeling our layers and saying, I choose, because most of the women that come work with us, they want to be some kind of leader and healer. Yes. So if you're choosing this field, you're not making tables, boo. You know, you are. If you say you want to be a leader, a healer, then you are required to look at the politics, the culture, the emotional, the implications of what things look like and feel like, and to rally so that things can be truly one. Yeah. We have to go through this. This is like, it's not comfortable.
with this or anything else, even if it's just your own, putting your own stuff out, that's not comfortable either. It's like super uncomfortable, and growth doesn't happen in comfortable situations. We are growing exponentially right now. It's supposed to feel clunky, and yet can we have these conversations? And to your point, that's what I watched a really great live stream last week about that. And his name is Shanae. Shanae, is it Howard, her last name?
I think
yeah, it was really wise. And I was taking notes, and it was just this whole, like, just listen and learn, listen and learn, and admit, I don't know. I'm just trying to be stronger here because, I had the background that I did. For me personally, I'm speaking as Jenny, I am a white girl and I can't change that. But what I can change is that my eyes can be open bigger, and I can, up my sensitivity factor when I may say certain things that I'm like, oh my God, like I caught myself. I'm like, I can't say that. Like little things that you just don't realize until something is brought to the surface, and then you do realize. And so, I'm so excited to be doing this retreat with you, Christine. When we were on Caitlin's Redefining Sobriety Summit, we realized, like, let's just chat. And then I am, speaking of Gabby Bernstein, I'm going to be in New York City in June attending her Spirit Junkie Masterclass. I am a fan of her work. I've been through her program levels 1 and 2, and I'm just really committed to this journey of, being a coach, being a guide, and I call myself as a spiritual business coach. I'm not afraid to use the word spiritual. I feel like I do my best to walk that and to live it and to heal my shit as best I can and continue to show up for that. Someone asked me recently, like, well, who do you work with? Who's your coach? And I was like, well, let me just tell you who my team is. Okay. Like, I have a team of people who support my evolution, my growth. And that's me being that person who's willing to do the work. The work it's not cheap, it's not convenient, and it's not glamorous, honestly. It's none of those things.
And because I know we've been chatting for a while, but in Wild Woman Magic, one of the things that you can expect are, rituals and routines that we use. And, we'll be speaking about the things that we've learned. And again, Jenny and I are coming to you from completely different backgrounds, coming with a similar desire to help, to help serve women. And in particular is our demographic is helping to tap into their magic. And we all have magic, and we have even more magic when we look at the uncomfortable spaces, and, there might be moments where you disagree with someone, where you don't see eye to eye, where you don't, I love Gab's work. She opened up a lot for me, but at the same time, I want her to do better. I have, and, a lot of women that follow me, they know that I speak openly about that. I've met her in person. We know the deal. She likes my work too, but at the end of the day, there's so much room for the women that are coming to be different.
Yes. And I think that's the thing, to your point. When we see others who are like not doing what we wish that they were doing, or they did something we don't like, that to me is the opportunity to say, you know what? I'm going to go in, like, I'm doing it in a different way. I'm going to represent these groups that are underrepresented. I'm going to speak about topics that I know about because that's been my freaking journey, or that's the group that I know in and out because I represent them. Like, I am them. We are in that. And so I love what you said. It's like that stuff when we get pissed off and we feel like they're not getting it. I say this to my people too. I'm like, go do it, go make it, go be that thing, go fill that gap, go fill that void.
Sometimes you're not going to find it. And again, there's privilege in even creating spaces. You're not given the money, you're not given the advantage. So it's not as easy. Yeah. For me to create my space, I had to connect with white women and, and that's a sad truth, but it's the truth, right? I had to learn from white women to learn how to make money and to do these things. And I'm not happy about that. I wish there was someone that was a woman of color that was there, that was deeply painful for me. But at the end of the day, I'm here, right? Yes. At the end of the day, we're here to do better. And, as a healer, I will say this: if you are doing healing work, if you call yourself a leader, you are responsible to speak on these topics. And if you are not, I do not consider you a true healer. And that's serious. You know, this is stuff, if you are holding space for someone's heart and their body and their, you know, breakthroughs, you can't just talk about the cute things when you want.
Yeah.
You can't just talk about, you know, release your judgment. No, you have to talk about the nitty gritty. You have to get into the pain and our own pain. It's fucking sucks. And you know what I think also, that let's see what happens after this, because there's so much room right now. Remember, what you don't know, you can't heal. And like right now, things are being unearthed.
Oh yeah.
Things are being released.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're going to be,
we're going to step up.
OMG, y'all. I put the link in the comments, jennyfennig.com/magic. We put the page there, jennyfennig.com/magic. I have a fly that's just like running. I'm like, I feel like I need those Mr. Miyagi, remember Karate Kid, chopsticks, and they're like, and they got, so, and what Christine and I talked when we just, you know, been in collaboration on this, that we want to make this as inclusive as we can. And so we now have 2 ticket types. One is like our VIP ticket type, where you will come to the retreat, plus receive some meditations from us, plus you have my course, and Christine, you're going to give a few months in your Diosa tribe. So we got to add that to the mix. So anyway, the VIP ticket is like super, super valuable and fabulous if you want to go that route. And if you just want to come to the event, you just want to be in the room, you just want to experience this magic and tap into yours and, you know, reclaim who you really are. And remember, because honestly, Christine, what I have come to realize is that it's a remembrance that happens. It's like you get yourself in a room with, no matter what the color people are, just women who feel like you do, who believe that we are here for a reason, and that our soul chose this time, this lifetime, and this work that you're here to do. And you get in that room and it's like, you just look into each other's eyes and you're like, yeah, I feel safe here. And so when we get in those rooms, we remember, yes, this is what I'm meant here to do. I don't have to carry this stuff anymore. I'm going to release it. I'm going to find some new sisters to walk on this path with. That's what we want to create at Wild Woman Magic. Christine, you've done a bunch of retreats at this space, reflections. Just kind of plug them in and tell them about the energy of the space.
Absolutely stunning. And they do so much activism work, and they lend their space and give their space for really great prices. And they really, I mean, it's beautiful, it's clean, it's bright, it's airy. And so many amazing people have done beautiful work there, which is what I love, because it's filled with so much
good vibes.
So much good juju. And like, you in this space, you feel home. That's what I've been told, that you walk in and you feel like, wow, I feel home.
Yes.
And you know, right now with everything happening, you know, scared, we're all scared in our own ways. We're all dealing with a lot of things. You can't ignore what's been going on. And more reason to walk into this. We both love Clarissa Pincola Estes, who's a Jungian psychotherapist. She's Latina. She was also raised by Hungarian parents, but she represents that Latina voice and shares stories. She considers herself a cantadora. She wrote the book Women Who Run with the Wolves, which is like both of our Bibles.
Oh my God.
So I'm studying with her. I'll be studying with her in October.
So cool. That's so cool.
And a lot of that medicine that she teaches us is about that remembering of the wild woman within, you know, and that means remembering the wild woman within you, you know, who you are, and unleashing and letting go of whatever it is that your experience has shed you with, whether that was trauma, whether that was cultural trauma, whether that was alcoholism, and that in that space that you're going to feel so safe to be able to know that we're going to help you release it and purge it and tap into the woman that you are meant to be. And with this unique now skill set of having this conversation of what we're talking about here, and how to authentically tap into that magic as a woman of color, as a white woman, as any woman, that you can learn to navigate what's really going on without ignoring it, and using that as a catalyst. Like I do everything in my life, right? How can I take this shit and do something with it? And in my own time, I don't have to rush it. You don't have to rush it, but you're going to have the opportunity to have ritual
Yes.
We're going to do tons of experiential exercises really in your body.
Yeah.
And I'm excited.
It's going to be so, oh my God, you just got me. I'm like, yes, I am. So I'm like running there right now. And the other thing I want to bring to light, you know, see my earrings. I have these are like every time I wear them, I'm just like, I'm this moon goddess and I'm flowing and I'm in love with the moon. Like I love her. And I wish I would have been taught that. Like, why wasn't I taught that in school? You know, about moon cycles and how it's connected to our menstrual cycle and how as women, we create with these cycles. We are cyclical creatures. We're not the same person every single day. That's why the Monday through Friday, 9 to whenever did not work for me in the corporate structure. I was like, I am dying. This is not going to work for me. And so now I very much create with the moon. And so I am going to, and I know Christine, you vibe on this too. Like I really want to bring this to life at the retreat too, to talk about how you can create using that lunar energy, working especially with, you know, new moon energy and full moon energy. This is now how I build my programs out. We connected those two moon points, like the new and the full. So I want to teach that. When I do, it's like, I feel so excited, and most women don't know, they don't realize. And they're like, well, no wonder I was, you know, so tired. I didn't feel like talking to anybody at that time. Like, of course, because that's just what's happening. And so once we understand that, right, it's like, instead of pushing against what's happening, and it's the same too with this conversation that we're having. Some people are pushing against, they're trying to ignore. You can't ignore that. It's just what is. And so when we can surrender into it and admit, like, I'm afraid right now, or I don't want to say the wrong thing, or I'm really tired, or I have all this energy. You need to understand what's happening on a macro and micro level so that you can be that leader that you're here to be. I think you and Christine, you and I, we're like so in alignment on the leadership piece. And then, you know what? I'm remembering too, I used to get really pissed when I'm like, why isn't anybody saying anything about this thing? Like, and I remember asking that once, and I know, like, it can be, you know, even on the political front, some people they just don't even dip their toes in there. They're afraid. But if you really believe in something, you have to be willing to take a stand. I would say take a stand. Don't be wishy-washy. Take a position. Some people are going to freaking hate your position. They're going to hate you. That's just what it is.
And if you're not called to do that, like not everyone, listen, you know, not everyone's called. You can be praying at home and take a stance. You know, I don't advocate like complacency, but I think that there's different ways to advocate for change in your life.
Yes, right. It doesn't have to be like you're talking politics. To be like, your changes, you know what? Everyone needs to take quiet time and for prayer. You need to go inward, journal. Live it. Be the change. Be the change. That's Gandhi, right?
The bottom line is, you know, whether it was with patriarchy robbing women of their right to their magic and their medicine and women's stories in religion, and the pain that that's caused, or the, you know, the remembrance of being burned as a witch, or being hung as a slave, or your ancestor picking on the field. These are deep pains that live in our bodies, and there is magic when we release the belief that those are not holding us back. And what better way to do this than in sacred sisterhood and having this combination of voices. I think who we are and how we look and what we've been sharing is so important right now. I think it's in it and of itself, navigating through what that looks like and feels like, so healing. And also being able to remember these things that are in us that are just waiting for us to be explored, and the power that it holds within them. So when you walk away from this experience, I hope that you feel empowered, and that you feel the remembering of who you are meant to be.
That's it, girl. That is it. All right, everybody, jennyfennig.com/magic. Christine and I will be there. We're so excited. The women are stepping forward now. Those that we know are joining us are fantastic. And our job is to really just nurture this beautiful circle. And so it's a Friday, June 1st. We'll be at Reflections. All the details are on that page. Again, 2 different ticket types. Get the time off of work if you need to do that. Travel in from wherever you are. We've never done anything like this before. Who knows what will come after this? So join with us here. We are going to make magic together. This is a real crucial time, I think, for women, honestly. Everything that's kind of been happening before this, wow. And so let us kick off summer together in this very, very powerful way. And and really, chart your path for what you want 2018 to be for you and beyond. Make some decisions, make some moves, and make some awesome new friends. Thank you. Oh my gosh, this is so fantastic. Thanks, Christine. Thanks, everybody. Say hi underneath, and we'll circle back and connect with y'all. We hope to see you at Wild Women Magic. Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Get Gutsy with Jenny Fennig. Gutsy leaders unite and ignite.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Get Gutsy as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. Are you responsible for leading and growing your spiritual business? If so, I have a free tool for you that will help you spread your message like wildfire. It's called the Sacred Marketing Puzzle, and it's a one-page PDF guide that simplifies the often mysterious and confusing world of marketing. When you use sacred marketing tools to amplify your message, you'll provide huge value to your tribe and grow your business. What are you waiting for? Go to jennyfennig.com/puzzle to get yours instantly. That's jennyfennig.com/puzzle. Gutsy leaders, unite.